Background. Okay, here we are, Thursdays, 11 o'clock. Used to be called Qualified Tutor Conversations. Now it's called Love Tutoring Conversations. The principle is the same. I get a chance to chat with members, with the QT members, with the most awesome, motivated, heart-led tutors out there. And what we get to do is push the thinking forward together. We get to explore what the lay of the land looks like in tutoring and where we would like it to go next. And I've got a topic. I always have a topic. I tend to pull them up last minute, and they tend to be related to what's going on in my life at the moment. So would you like to hear, Jenna, what's going on in my life at the moment and what's the topic? Okay, so great. So I am blessed to be doing building works at the moment, which is a thing to be super, super grateful for. And yes, I am. And yet it throws up all sorts of discomforts. So the first thing that I want to talk about with you, Jenna, is having a place and what having a place means in terms of our tutoring. And then, as advertised, I'd like to talk about customer service because I've had the opportunity to engage with lots of different tradespeople recently. And choosing who to work with is really choosing who to trust, who to invest in, who to there's a few days of close work in whichever tradesperson that you start working with. And been blessed to have some wonderful builders in my house for the last few months. And the tradespeople who are in at the moment, I won't be too specific, are not good enough. And Jenna and I were just talking before we started this recording about good enough and it's good enough. The lighting on my camera at the moment is not as natural and comfortable as Jenna's is, but it's good enough. So thinking about customer service, thinking about good enough, thinking about how we as people show up for our clients, the parents, the schools, the local authorities, and of course, the young people, and what all of those things come together to mean. So what message they share about what we value in our work, and also how they have an impact on our tutoring success. And I do mean the work, getting the work and keeping the work, but I also mean the power of the work that we do with a young person and how that's influenced by the quality of the service that we deliver. So there's lots to go on there. But Jenna, let's just sort of warm up by exploring that idea of having a place from which to work, which I don't at the moment.
One word popped into my head while you were talking. It kind of transverses all of the topics, which is curated. Nice. You said about lighting as well. Yeah. Mine looks like this because it is very specifically curated. I have my window in the right place. I have my light in the right place, and I'm ever so slightly blinded in the right way so that it looks nice for you.
Could you just turn the laptop around and show me, please? No, because it's desktop.
Yeah. Also, I can show you part of it, but my current wiring means that you're not going to be able to see all of it. My favorite bit is my dragon on the microphone.
Yes, of course.
Oh, you're not. Yeah. Okay. Of course. I've just realized what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to turn it around so that you can see the device I'm moving.
Got it. So Helen, great timing. So that
well, it's a deflect from Jenna's whoopsie moment.
Yeah, well, it was lovely because what we're talking about right now in our limbering up to talk about customer service is our place where we work. So I'm, as you know, very displaced at the moment, but I do have a very, very nice office coming. And Jenna's talking about how she's curated the space around her so that the light's really good. You mentioned that you've got some sort of light that's blinding you. So I cannot function with that light in my eyes. And I would rather not give you a good enough light than do that because it really troubles me. Helen has got the sun on her face, which is an absolute treat. And also, as we say, slightly blinding. So it's that.
I joke with my students, I get to this point of the year, forget how blinding the sun is in this room. Yeah. And I keep telling myself, I get to the end of exam season, I'm going to do something about it. Never do.
Well, we're going to remind you this year because we're having the conversation, having a place to work, and also maybe even a place to stand. So I'm on a shelf at the moment, which is an absolute treat because, when you work from home, your step count can be to the kettle and back. I kid you not. I think I once saw 150 steps on my step count for a day, which is brutal. Go on. Where you work. Helen, you've done some work on it recently, haven't you?
Yeah, but not necessarily this bit. It did cause a little bit of chaos though when we did work. So I am working from home. This is actually my dining room most of the time. So I work in a space that does sometimes need to be set down quite quickly. So when I buy stuff for work, I have to consider as part of that how easy it is to set down and store if we want to have family over for dinner.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to know whether that makes you feel in any sense displaced, like that whole sort of hot seat vibe in your own home and the different hats that you're wearing. What does that feel like?
Sometimes it can sometimes feel that. Sometimes I wish I had a set space that was work and I could close the door and leave it behind and have all of my textbooks on display mixed in with my Lego. You can obviously see the priorities there with what's on display right now. Yeah, it's all about the Lego. Yeah, so sometimes, most of the time it's fine because we have a separate eating space for the immediate family.
Yeah.
So most of the time I can just shut this door into the conservatory and walk away. Just at times I wish I had a separate space.
Yeah.
But it's not a feasible thing at the moment. So we have been able to set this space, which is mainly mine to work. But as part of that, I can quickly clear it away, set down, so that it can be used for other things.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important point. And it's something that comes up a lot in the work that I do, because a lot of the young people I work with are being educated at home, either largely or full-time or indefinitely or permanently. Sometimes it's medium term, short term. And it's so important to, like, if you are working in the space that you're living, you have to have boundaries. And when you're someone who has anxiety about one or the other, or you have imposter syndrome about one or the other or both, or you know, it's hard, or it's not something that's a personal interest, or that you need some separation, like, even if you're someone who, like me, your work is your special interest, and I mean that in the jargon or specific sense.
You're a tutoring nerd.
Yeah, and like the ultimate tutoring nerd. And I chose my house when I moved based on tutoring and work, and sod my partner's needs in a house. It was a lot. He does, like, it does factor in, but like the first start, because also I'm the one that did all the research, like, for the most part, right?
It's a bit like when the husband has one wardrobe and you have three.
And I think it's really interesting, and something that I do is kind of one of the services at BSE is actually designing those study spaces, because it's really hard as well. If you are in a blended family or a split family, or you move around a lot, or you travel a lot, or whatever, like, as a tutor who primarily does in person, I work really, really long hours. Most of my students, I have some level of full-time equivalent, and if I'm in their homes and stuff, I can't take my entire I have a desktop, I have several screens, I have massive, as much as I am designing and I'm on my way to actually kitting out a portable classroom that's on wheels.
Oh, you've teased us about that before. We cannot wait to see what that is.
My conundrum at the moment is, if I get a van that's big enough, because I work with so many residences, I'm sure, I mean, you live in London, you know what parking's like, and your road isn't necessarily that bad. And so I'm like, I can't really just, especially if I'm working with someone like 5 days a week during the day, I can't really take up an entire road with a van and stuff like that. So that's my conundrum. But if you're a young person studying, for example, to have that zone that you can take with you, that's got that consistency, that's got all of the tools that you need in the way that you need, that you don't have to set up from scratch and have those extra barriers if you're going from parent house to parent house, or you're doing this school setup, or for us it's our work setup in different homes or different settings. You want it to be nice and easy and familiar and yours and personal. And like I'm currently having some home assessments, and the assessment that came around yesterday, her laptop was covered in stickers, but she was really, like, you could tell there was restraint in the stickers because it was a work laptop. But like, you could see that and that personality, and you know, that smile, that interaction that makes it yours. And she's like, if it was my laptop, because it's a work laptop, so they have to be peelable and stuff, that, you know, she'd completely cake it. And I think that's so apt. And I mean, I create, and
that's apt as well. You're saying that she's, well, partly she's communicating her personality to you.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit disarming for you, isn't it? It's like, I'm
Brilliant.
a person too. I know I'm here in an assessment role. I might be auditing some things, but yeah, that's your little friend. He's on the hunt for socks because we're in my bedroom. On the subject, Helen, of having a place to work. Yes, as you know, whenever I do have,
bye guys.
Whenever I do have a place to work, it gets colonized. It gets genuinely, like, they just come in, they think it's theirs, and they leave their stuff lying around, and then eventually it is theirs, and I have to go find another place to be. But that idea of stickers on a computer is so simple and really, really interesting in terms of making you feel at home wherever you go.
Absolutely. Like, you can do so many little things, and I think it is about those little things, especially when you're feeling displaced.
Nice.
Like, we talk about that sense of that confidence and that reassurance a lot, but it's that sense of comfort that goes with all of the things that we always talk about, and having those reminders. Like, you think about it in terms of, if you were taking imagine you had a very young child, I know 3-ish, and you were taking them away from home for the first time, what would you put into place for them to feel safe?
I'd leave them there. No, safeguarding. I wouldn't. Yeah, no, when we go, we make sure we have the key teddy bears. We still, even now, they're not 3 anymore. We still make sure we have the key teddy bears that smell.
Yes.
I'm going to leave you to imagine the smell after 7 years. They smell of that child. They smell of that child's bed. They smell of that child, of our home. They smell
familiar.
His mum. They are familiar smells. Obviously, we can't take everything that makes them feel comfortable at home, because I wouldn't have the space in the suitcase for that. But
there's something about attachment here, isn't there?
There's I think there's an element of
identity.
Yeah.
And where we place that, and not placing it in too many things.
Yes, also true. Yes, also, you don't have to need all your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as someone who spent some time in foster care as well, I feel like this is something that I think about a lot. And I work with a lot of young people who are in foster care. And, you know, there's just something about being deliberate and having that security and, you know, that little bit of pride and that sparkle.
I was talking with a mum yesterday whose child is really, really struggling. She was actually in the police station last week with one of her children. She's really, really struggling. But she says that she talks to him about tidying up his bedroom, because how are you going to feel better if you don't take care of your space? You've got to find a lever.
But that doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work.
That one doesn't work with mine.
It depends very much who they are and where they are. But for her, and she's a really trusted friend, for her to be able to say, I know that even with all the understanding that I bring, there are certain expectations that he benefits from me having, and how that can jumpstart that virtuous cycle. I am struggling to think, what is the opposite of displaced?
Settled.
Set up.
Placed.
Established.
If we're going to be really, really, really English about this, the opposite of displaced is placed.
Yeah.
Well,
to have your place.
To have your place. Yeah. To have some sort of, to be grounded somewhere, to feel.
We talk about we talk about displaced people, don't we? Refugees and those that have fled. And they get settled status, or they get settled. That's the terminology, isn't it, that is used in those contexts.
And so you see why it's important to explore this. You know, Jenna mentioned home educating. Helen mentioned working from home. In both cases, having a sense of place. And, you know, both of you have this delightful backgrounds at the moment that I am slightly coveting, that have been quite clearly curated to tell your students what they need to know. Go on, Helen, I can see your face.
I'd say you can't see that side of the room. You can see this side, which is the side that appears on camera. And so there is a very strong effort to keep this moderately tidy.
Have you got like a force field?
Something like that. No, I just yell at them. Probably isn't the best parenting strategy, but it does the job eventually. Or I just throw it across the room so it's no longer inside. The other side of the room has currently got a sewing machine, about 4 sets of Lego that belongs to the children, not my Lego. All of that is off camera. So
hold on. So tell you what you're making me think of. You know how social media and TV and all of the media that we consume all day long that gives us unrealistic examples of what life is supposed to look like, right? And actually what you've done is you've created your version of that in your media setup over there, and it does or doesn't reflect your real life.
Semi reflects my real life.
Great. Let's hold on to that semi and go to the second topic, which is customer service. Your customer service reflects who you are. Semi, right? It's a mindful, curated, intentional approach. So let's first give you a chance to sum up what your customer service, and when I say customer, of course, I'm talking about parent, school, local authority, and most importantly, the young person themselves. What does that service look and feel like?
Well, I could ask from the other perspective as a parent, then, what does it feel like? I'm not sure necessarily I want the answer to this on LinkedIn. So, yeah, it's clear, it's transparent, it's personalized as much as it can be.
Nice.
Which will vary from people to people and situation to situation. Somebody that is specifically probably like Jenna, working with those that have many additional needs and things, it's going to be way more personalized in lots of the steps than it would be for me as a maths tutor. Now, there will be steps where I am dealing specifically one-on-one, but a lot of the steps in sort of onboarding, because that's one that I'm looking at the moment, how does a student start working with me? A lot of those are going to be semi-automated, because else I am going to spend all my time doing that onboarding. But even there will need to be personal steps in there.
Really, really nice. Okay, let me just hear more about the automation side of things, because I think that there's more advantages than just it giving you your time back. I think it also creates consistency.
Yes, that's one of the, I'm going through a whole thing with automation, with onboarding, and same at the other end of the day, the offboarding, so that, and actually the consistency is good for both parties on that one. It's consistent for the parents. They know they're getting the same thing as every other parent that you are working with, or school, they're getting the same thing. If you've prepared it ahead of time, it's got everything you need on that automation.
Yes.
So mine currently has, and I hope you had a copy when you signed up, if everything worked, it has a copy of my terms and conditions. There will be a step in it that sends out the link to the booking side of things. I'm working on adding in a how to use that step as more of a little video. So even in that automation, there can be personalized touches, but it does provide consistency for the parent, and it's consistency for you, because you are not, as a tutor, because you are not sat there going, oh, what haven't I sent yet?
Yeah, totally. The overwhelm.
It's one less thing I have to think of. All I need to do is, once that parent has agreed to work with me and the child has agreed to work with me, I can take the email address, I can put it in, and it takes over that side of things for me, and it's consistent and it's reliable, and I don't have to think about that bit. I can think about actually what I need to do for that child.
It's the best type of organised, really, isn't it?
Yes. Where's Georgina when we need her?
Jenna?
I think it's really interesting the direction that you went with your reflections there, Helen, because I kind of initially went with like the branding and the set stuff to begin with. And I was like, because to me, I forget that there's a whole lot more to customer service and all of that than I remember about in the moment. Part of that is ADHD. You know, when a question is thrown at me, everything I know in the world just disappears from my brain. But I was kind of scribbling down a few words that resonated with me.
You're doing great.
Because one of the first word that comes to my mind is blobby, because my branding is blobby. There are rules of blobbiness and types of blobs that go for different things, and I have because I run a group of companies, each company and each sub hub they're called hubs within the organizations, each have their own identity, but there is consistency across every single brand, every single part of every organization. There is only one organization that I run that is outside of the umbrella, and very intentionally so. And that's because it's just my graphic design on the side as a completely unrelated separate
totally different identity.
Yeah. And so I absolutely loved the first time I shared this with someone like professional was our web developer, and this person now has gone on their neurodivergent journey, and they're the first person that I had gone to who everyone in the room was assuming they were neurotypical at the time, who actually understood this. And I have different levels of blobby. So I've got like shapes that are like, you know, the most corporate version. I hate the pointy corners. I feel like it's sharp and hard, and my brand in every which way, in every part of our communication, is softer than that. So in our most corporate things, it's like, you know, regular geometric shapes, but with curved vertices. And then it goes from that to like wavy blobs, to squiggly blobs, to splatty.
Can you tell us about the blob in your logo here, please?
My logo does not actually have any blobs. My logo, well, I suppose it's sort of.
What is the image in the middle?
So it is a corvid.
Do I need to look that up now?
So a corvid is so there's a little bit of a debate, and we are open to I won't tell you why it's set up the way it is, because that's part of the mystery, and it is so much fun. So yeah, corvids are ravens and crows and all of that. Okay. And they are very cool creatures, and they represent different things in different cultures. And so it is a slightly blobby version, I suppose, of a corvid, in that it's a very it was actually, this one was designed by my partner, and it's very, very cool how it's created, and it was designed to be recognizable at any scale. So obviously when it's really, really small, unless you can zoom in on it, it's kind of hard to see because you can't see anything at that point. But I have started to use where we've got like a circle, part of a circle, enough to make your brain think there's a circle. I then sometimes use a circle background, like a sticker. But I have started to use blobs a little bit for different brand bases.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is that you're leaving space for interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that your design is not only communicating what you do, it's also leaving space for them to do some of the work.
I think you've pulled on something that I have done very, very intentionally, and you're the first person to say it's in my branding, in every.
Helen, I got a sticker.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's on back.
Even in the way that I write my emails, in the layouts that I use, in the way that I use text boxes, besides the fact that there is genuine accessibility and science behind it, I always do my best to leave space.
Nice.
Physical space and brain space, because it's not about me. I shouldn't be I'm not here to insert myself in everything, right? It's not about me. I get my time, and I do need to get better at protecting my time elsewhere, but so do we all, right? But that space is processing, and something that I learned going through counseling training and all of that is leaving silence, leaving that sort of space there for processing, for thinking, for just existing, for being uncomfortable, for those realizations. And we don't always take that time. And I know that for me, because of my various disabilities and neurodivergence, sometimes I talk really, really fast, and sometimes I talk really, really slowly. And it's really interesting having those conversations and those reactions to the effects of that.
So it's really useful that it's you two in this conversation, because I have such a clear understanding of the difference between the experience that you each create for your clients, right? And Helen's, I think, I don't want to overspeak, but you're solving a problem. Do you know what I mean? You're solving the problem of my child and maths. Do you know what I mean? And in a way, by having these streamlined systems that don't take too much reading, what you're saying to the parent is, I'm gonna take care of this for you. I can see that you do not have headspace for this. I'm not going to require too much of your attention. I am just going to be organized enough to solve this problem for you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, everything is in this email. If you need it, it's there. Provided you've read the T's and C's and you know what to expect, here it all is. And if you need it, you can come back to it.
Yes, and if you can come back to it, that's right.
Even to the point where
I've given you everything you need.
Even to the point where the payments are automated. So again, it's one less thing that they have to think about.
Absolutely. So that sort of commitment to reducing the cognitive load for the parents, it seems really sensible, because there's usually a crunch time when they're coming to you. There's a high need, especially because it's maths. Now, again, Jenna, I'm going to have a go, and please feel free to correct and adjust. For me, your kind of tutoring is very much about holding space and about rehabilitation within that space. And therefore, you do take more headspace from everyone. That, you know, the conversations that we've had about the way that you partner with schools and the way that teachers are expected to share information with you so that you can do your best work for the student is coming from a much more holistic set of needs. There'll usually be neurodiversity and mental health issues, and there's probably local authority funding involved there as well. So there's this, you sort of have permission to take up more space and to hold more space for the young person, whereas Helen's is a little bit more on the precise. Yours is more on the, let's just pick up this whole person and get them pointed in the right direction. Fair point? Fair attempt?
I wish that is what I want it to be. That is what I wish we all had capacity and means and time for. And I think sometimes that happens. In reality, I get little bits of that, but a lot of it is providing time and taking that overwhelm away from other people, and kind of I try and present it a little bit more in the way that you talked about Helen's, in that problem solving. And sometimes it does feel like that, but that is often a journey when you're at a point where, because what I do isn't just one thing, I don't just teach maths, right? There's a lot more than that. And that naturally comes with families and professionals and other people who don't necessarily know what that one thing might be that they're looking for. They often come to me thinking that they only want the maths. And what we end up doing is not that. And that's how I've ended up working the way that I do, is that it was very much, I taught primarily STEM subjects, to be honest. It was maths and science. That's what I started with. And then it was English as well. And over time, it's needed to be more, and it's been exciting to have more. But we start off with solving one problem, and it could be workload or overwhelm or anxiety or engagement. And that taking that and having that really clear goal, and then happening to do all the rest of it is where I think there is that middle bit of what I do. I do think that one of the challenges that I really, really have in my communication and conversations is that I know that I need to be more around that what problem am I solving thing, because that is how marketing works. That is how, you know, capitalism works. That is, you know, what people want, and that's where commissions and sales come from. But that isn't what humans are, and I find that a really difficult balance.
Helen, do you want to speak to that? I think
there is a balance there, and actually, I've stolen the line that I am solving the problem of you and maths. And not necessarily you, but that's
you should know that I am Helen's most quoted client.
Yeah, because you give me such good lines to use. You give me some cracking lines to use. Another one today on Facebook, the one that you used. Anyway, yes, so solving the problem of maths. So that is where my marketing is going to go, because that's the problem that me and tutors that work with me are going to be dealing with. We are dealing with the problem that your student needs to sit a maths exam at some point, and they are probably not particularly comfortable about that. And so that's where my marketing is pointed, but I still have me in that. Yeah. There is me, there is the quirkiness, there is the slightly Helen-ness about my marketing. The other days was April Fool's, and I managed to get a good number of tutors with the fact that I said that there were going to be phones in exams, and I can't believe how many believed me.
Did. It was goodness me, I cannot cope with such things.
It was very funny. I did test on a couple of tutors first to make sure, and things like that. My marketing is quirky and different because that's who I'm trying to reach in a style, because it's not just we're going for the top grade. That's not the problem. We're going for the students that have the confidence issues. So yeah, I've lost where I was going.
No, I love it, because
the space thing was one that one I wanted to draw is, you were saying that Jenna holds space. Part of the reason that I automate as much as I do is it then enables the space.
Yeah.
Because once that's taken care of, I don't have to think about it. Yeah. It's done. It's the consistency. And then I've got, okay, you've got a problem with maths. And that might mean I have to go down a slightly SEND route. That's not my specialism. But if I have a student that has an issue with maths because they have an additional need, then hey-ho, we're going to need to address that as we do it. I need to hold the space. Julia, you are very well aware that some maths lessons I have, we actually don't get an awful lot of maths done, simply because there are issues going on there and attention spans are short, that we can't get the same amount of stuff that I would get done normally.
Let me tell you,
when the space to have a go, or to have that little wander and then come back, have the really, really weird maths related YouTube video. We're still on some great ones of those. It just, the solving of the problem is maths.
Okay, so what I think you've said is that you're a nicer tutor because you've got automations.
No, I'm a nice tutor anyway. I'm a less stressed tutor because I've got automations.
I think you are. I'm imagining a parallel universe where Helen didn't get her automation set up, and you wouldn't have this conversation, would you?
No, I would be a lot more stressed, and I wouldn't be working with as many students.
Yeah, chaos.
If I cannot reach as many students,
you wouldn't be reaching, you wouldn't be earning, and actually you wouldn't be smiling. You know, it's going to affect your kids, and we've seen those moments. So yeah.
It did. And this is where, full disclosure, I've been in the QT world for probably about 5 years now. I've worked it out because I was fairly early on in the journey. Probably about 5 years now, and it probably took me 3 years to realise that automations were a good thing, and that I could actually get them to work.
Yeah.
Even if it if it required a husband to go, okay, that's how you do that. He's getting a lot of shout outs today. With the technical side of things. So
well done, hubby. Now look, Jenna, you said I should be, I need to be. Yeah. Let's spend the next 10 minutes sort of guiding our own practice forward. Helen said, it took me 3 years to realize automations were a good thing. Jenna,
and that's with lots and lots of QT business sessions and all those things where people are talking about it. Nah, I can't do that.
See, one thing I find really interesting is there's a lot of similarities, I feel like, between you and I, Helen. Like, we've got, like, when we're together in person, it's chaos. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Beautiful chaos.
It is incredible. And I find it so fascinating that, you know, for me, I am still on, like, there's a certain amount, like, whenever, one of the things I really don't like about the corporate world in general is this thing about cleanliness in a sense of sanitization and taking yourself out of it, taking out your personality and taking out the personalness that from organizations, even if it's just you. And I fell into that trap very early on, and it can wash some of your branding and who you are and everything, because you end up using the royal we, or things like that just fudge things slightly. And for me, I think I grew up in a way where there was a lot of pressure and encouragement for really what's the word? My brain's gone blank again. That measurable productivity, measurable achievement, provable, really clearly provable achievement and success. And one of the things that I have to fight every single day is that perfectionism that goes with that using automation, that asking for help, that having a VA or a PA, or that all of these things are signs that you are failing. Like, I'm going through so for me personally, I am often just as sometimes higher support needs than many of my students, because of my combination of neurodiversities and physical disabilities and health conditions and stuff. And I'm currently going through the process of getting the support, and like my partner is my full-time carer, and going through the process of getting that official support into place is really eye-opening about how much these things affect me every single day, in that sense of rejecting ChatGPT, rejecting these things and logicking my way out of it, right? That I can't use automation because that takes away the personal touch. It takes away the fact that it's me. It means that I'm failing because I can't do it all. And that is such a lifelong journey for me. And it's one that I find really, really hard to confront head on. And it has definitely negatively affected my work. You were talking a minute ago about how without those things, Helen wouldn't reach as many people, wouldn't have the capacity for.
I said she'd be less nice, actually.
Pardon? Yeah, they should be less nice.
I think I'm pretty nice to start with, but
and I think that has been a really, really hard, long lesson for me, that I can now admit to it that I am not anywhere near as successful or as lucrative or effective as I could be if I both conceded and could see those things and understand those things and could find the right tools. In some ways, like, sometimes I feel like it's a bit too late for me because I've been in this journey so long that, it's too late. I've got too much on my plate. I'm trying to do too many things.
Jenna,
we're calling you out. I know it's not. And I, January this year, I actually downloaded ChatGPT after, like, it's enshrined in company policy to not use specific certain types of AI, and ChatGPT is one of them. But there are specific reasons for that beyond just some of these things that I have realized are personal, glitchy wiring, shall we say. But it is a journey, and I think that going through that journey with my families, with my young people, and sharing that, I think is, like, you can't escape. It doesn't matter how much automation you have, how many other people you have doing stuff for you, you cannot escape your own chaos, your own intricacies, your own personality, right? And part of our power is that the fact that we are real people, we have these same things, we have that same level of nerdery for these things, and we have infectious nerdery, right?
Yeah, we do.
I love it, and I like every time I'm with you guys, I feel like I'm even more nerdy, or I've learned nerdiness about other areas that I didn't think I could have that kind of pizzazz for. And now
can I grab onto that word chaos for a second? So our lovely friend Sarah Lynn Hodder says she delivered a session for us once called "Your Mess is Your Message," and I loved that concept because, you know, my mess is unique to me. And if you want to work with me, be friends with me, build a life with me, you're jolly well going to have to accept my mess, you know? And this idea that we all have our chaos, we all have our mess, and that it's a really neutral approach to the fact that I'm gonna do my best to make things really, really easy for you to work with me. But I'm not gonna hide my whole self. I had a really, really disappointing discovery call a couple of weeks ago. My laptop camera was down, and I underestimated how much it was going to affect this discovery call. And halfway through the meeting, the person was like, I don't have a sense of who you are. I don't have a sense that this is, you know, a safe space for me. Why don't we reconvene once the camera's fixed? I thought that was so interesting. I was glad that she gave me another chance. But the fail for me of getting across my message was really interesting there. Knowing how much of my mess to hold back and how much to share with you, and how much you share with your clients becomes quite interesting as well. If it's not mess, if it's not chaos, if it's just our uniqueness and, you know, our sort of railing against perfection, what does it look like? So hold on. Don't answer that, because we've got 7 minutes left, and I did have a final question.
These sessions are never long enough. I mean, we don't have time for longer, but
you just want to go Thursday to Thursday, do you? So this is what I want to ask you. What is your ideal 3 words that your customers, your clients, the parents, the schools, the local authorities, and most importantly, the young people, 3 key words that would describe the experience of working with you? Let's go with the ideal version, because then it gives us something to point towards, and we've been honest enough.
I have an issue with this because I have spent several years.
You can have 7 keywords.
every year I have a brainstorming day where I explore all of the words, and I have masses. I have like these giant rolls of paper, and we use that, and I write down every single possible word, and I categorize it into, like, it's word vomit to start with, and then it goes into categories. And the reason why our tagline is it's been years and iteration.
What's your tagline?
Harnessing chaos, curiosity, and creativity for learning that makes a difference. Beautiful. Because we have been through so many iterations of this, and we use triple words in different ways for different things, and basically exactly for what you said. What is that ideal? What for each of the things that we use this kind of approach for, and how do we deliver it? How do we want to be seen? What is reality? And I think that the 3 words that I use the most are chaos, curiosity, and creativity, because for all of the things.
So the parent should say, Jenna, they're chaotic, they're curious, and they're creative.
Yeah.
That's what I feel when I walk away from working with you.
In a good way, and sometimes not in the best way, but that is who we are. And at the end of the day, I'm not here to hide my flaws. I'm not here to pretend, not here to mask. I'm here to support and be transparent. And, you know, I am the adult version of what a lot of their young people are going through. And you get that honesty. And I think that, you know, we talk about chaos in a lot of different ways at QT, don't we? We need a certain amount of chaos. Chaos can be brilliant. Without chaos, oh my God, it would be awful.
Stultifying.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that Helen gets her time.
Yeah. Okay.
But that was a whole self answer, wasn't it? So yeah, Helen, go for it.
I would say I've only got one that's coming massively that just keeps coming back, as I think, which is reassured.
Oh.
That from a math specialist is doing great. I got an all for a word. Fantastic.
That went deep, that word.
Yeah, because it does encompass a lot, I think. That I want my parents that work with me to feel reassured that they have chosen the right person to hand over their child to, that they are entrusting, was the nice word that you gave me the other week, Julia, was that they are trusting me with their child to be able to do the maths to get them through that point, which usually they either don't have time, wherewithal, maths ability, maths confidence to do it themselves, some combination. I want the student to feel reassured that this is something that they can do. They can get the grade that they're looking for in the end. They can get past the math barrier, whatever it is that's the issue. They can get the 9, they can get whatever it is, they can do it. There's a reassurance there that kind of carries through. I want them to feel reassured.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That was really, really powerful. And I think probably a testament to all the years of thinking that it was able to be distilled so powerfully. Really, really interesting. Thank you. Go on, ask me.
Well, we were giving you space.
Ask me.
Julia, what are your 3 words?
Okay. I want you guys to feel inspired, enabled, and loved. And I think that's what we do here. And it's a very, very yummy thing. So as I round up this conversation, firstly, thank you to awesome Helen and Jenna. If you are listening to this on YouTube or Spotify, come to qualifiedtutor.org, find out more about what we do and how to get involved. Look out for Bet for Tutors next January. Look out for World Tutors Day this July. And look out for the Level 7 postgrad in what?
Shall we try that again?
Postgrad in professional tutoring that is coming very soon. Lots to look out for, but it all happens here inside the QT community. So qualifiedtutor.org, I would really be chuffed to have a chat with you if you are interested. Lots of love to you guys. Thanks, Jenna. Thanks, Helen. Have a lovely sunny weekend. We've earned it.